The house had stood at the end of Ashmere Lane for over a century, its windows blind with dust, its porch sagging like a tired sigh. Children called it the Crooked House. Adults called it condemned. But no one ever called it home. It was the kind of place that seemed to lean towards you when you passed by, as if listening. The shutters never moved, even in wind. The chimney never smoked, even in winter. And the yard, overgrown with thorns and brittle weeds, never bloomed, even in spring. On Halloween night, the house changed. Not visibly, not dramatically, but subtly. The air around it grew colder, the shadows stretched longer, and the silence deepened, as if the world itself held its breath. No one had entered the house in decades. Not since the Holloway family vanished. They had moved in on a whim, drawn by the low price and the promise of quiet. The father was a writer, the mother a painter. Their daughter, Lily, was 6 years old and liked to hum lullabies she hadn't learned. They lasted 3 weeks. Neighbors reported strange sounds, scraping, tapping, whispering. Lights flickered in windows that had no power. And then, one morning, the house was silent. The Holloways were gone. No note, no struggle. Just a breakfast table set for 3 and a trail of ash leading up the stairs. The town tried to forget, but the house didn't. Every Halloween, something happened. A dog would go missing. A car would stall in front of the gate. A child would wake screaming, claiming they saw someone watching them from the attic window. And every year, someone dared to get closer. This year, it was a group of college students, 4 of them, dressed in costumes and armed with flashlights, cameras, and bravado. They were filming a Halloween special for their horror podcast. They called it Dead Air. They arrived just after dusk. The sky was bruised with clouds, the wind was still, and the house loomed like a forgotten memory. They laughed at first, took selfies on the porch, knocked on the door and called out for ghosts. But when they stepped inside, the laughter stopped. The air was wrong. It wasn't just cold, it was heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. The floorboards groaned beneath their feet, and the walls seemed to pulse with something unseen. They explored room by room. The living room was coated in dust, but the fireplace held fresh ash. The kitchen smelled faintly of spoiled milk, and the hallway was lined with portraits, faces blurred, eyes scratched out. Upstairs, the bedrooms were untouched, beds made, toys arranged, but everything was slightly off. A doll sat facing the wall. A rocking chair moved without sound, and in the master bedroom, the mirror reflected nothing. They set up their equipment, began recording, told stories about the Holloways and the legends that followed. But the house listened. As the night deepened, things changed. The lights dimmed, the air grew colder, and the sounds began. First, a soft tapping from the attic, then a whisper beneath the floorboards, then footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving down the hall. They checked their cameras. Nothing. They checked their audio. Static. One of them, Jared, went to investigate the attic. He didn't return. The others surged, calling his name, climbing the narrow stairs that groaned beneath them. But the attic was empty. Just dust, cobwebs, and a single child's shoe. They tried to leave. The front door was gone. Not locked, not jammed. Gone. Just a wall where the door had been. Panic set in. They ran room to room, searching for windows, exits, anything. But the house had changed. The layout was wrong. Rooms looped back on themselves, hallways stretched too far, and the staircase now led down. Endlessly. They descended. The steps creaked. The walls narrowed, and the air grew thick with the scent of rot and old paper. At the bottom, they found a room. It wasn't on any blueprint. It wasn't part of the house. It was circular, stone, lit by candles that hadn't burned down. And in the center was a table, set for 3. Their equipment failed. Their flashlights flickered, and the whispers grew louder. They saw things, reflections that didn't match, shadows that moved against the light, and faces, familiar but wrong, smiling from the walls. One by one, they vanished. Not with screams, not with violence, just silence, until only one remained. Her name was Mara. She was the skeptic, the one who didn't believe in ghosts, the one who said legends were just stories. She wandered the house, calling names that no longer belonged to anyone. She found the attic again. The shoe was gone, but the doll now faced the door. She sat in the master bedroom, staring into the mirror that showed nothing. And then it did. It showed her, but not as she was. It showed her smiling, eyes black, mouth too wide, and behind her, the hallways. She ran. The house shifted, walls closed, doors vanished, and the whispers became voices. They spoke her name, not as she knew it, but as it had been rewritten. She reached the front hall. The portraits were clear now, her face among them. She screamed, and the house sighed. The next morning, the house was quiet. The porch sagged. The windows were blind. The yard was overgrown. A police cruiser rolled to a stop at the edge of Ashmere Lane. Officer Delaney stepped out, coffee in hand, boots crunching on frost-bitten leaves. He'd been assigned to check on the college kids, routine welfare call, nothing serious. He knocked once, then twice. No answer. He circled the house, peering through the grime-streaked windows. Inside, the furniture was wrong, too new, too clean. A breakfast table set for 3, a doll on the stairs. He radioed dispatch. Static. He tried the front door. It opened. The air inside was cold, still, but not empty. Delaney stepped in, flashlight sweeping across the walls. The portraits blinked, the floor creaked, and somewhere deep within the house, something shifted. He called out. No response. Then, from the attic, a sound. A single note. High, hollow, like a child humming. Delaney climbed the stairs. The door was ajar. Inside, the attic was dark, except for a mirror propped against the far wall. It reflected nothing, not him, not the room. He stepped closer, and the mirror changed. It showed 4 faces, then 5, then 6, all smiling, all watching. And behind them, a 7th face. His. The attic door slammed shut. We moved into the house in late September, just as the leaves began to turn. It was the kind of place you'd find in a forgotten postcard. White clapboard siding, a wraparound porch, and a crooked chimney that leaned like it had secrets. The price was suspiciously low, but we were young, broke, and eager to start over. The town was small, quiet, and surrounded by woods that looked beautiful in the fall. We didn't ask too many questions. The realtor had smiled too tightly. "Old place," she said. "Been empty a while." That was all. We unpacked quickly. The house smelled of dust and something faintly sweet, like rotting apples. The floors creaked, the windows stuck, and the basement door didn't open. I told myself it was just age, charm even. The first night, I woke to the sound of footsteps upstairs. My partner was asleep beside me. I lay still, listening. The steps were slow, deliberate, then silence. I didn't sleep again. The days were fine. Sunlight made everything feel normal. We painted the kitchen, hung curtains, planted mums on the porch. The neighbors were distant but polite. No one mentioned the house. At night, Things shifted. The footsteps returned. Always upstairs. Always between midnight and 3. We hadn't furnished the second floor yet. It was empty. One morning, I found the bedroom door open. We always closed it. I asked my partner, but they swore they hadn't touched it. Then came the whispers. Soft, unintelligible, like someone speaking through water. They came from the vents, the walls, the mirror in the hallway. I stood in front of it once and thought I saw someone behind me. When I turned, the hallway was empty. I stopped looking in mirrors. We finally opened the door to the basement. The key had appeared on the kitchen counter one morning, old and iron. Neither of us had put it there. The basement was colder than it should have been. The air felt thick, like it didn't want to be disturbed. The walls were lined with shelves, all empty except for one jar. Inside were teeth, human, maybe, small. We didn't speak about it. There was a door at the far end of the basement. It was child-sized, nailed shut. I felt sick just looking at it. That night, the whispers grew louder. My partner changed first. They grew distant, distracted, spoke less, slept less. I'd find them standing in the hallway at night, staring at the mirror. Once, I touched their shoulder, and they screamed like I'd stabbed them. They began drawing, pages and pages of the same image. A girl in a white dress, mouth stitched shut, eyes hollow. I asked who she was. They didn't answer. I started locking the bedroom door. I saw her on the stairs. She was small, pale and wrong. Her limbs bent strangely. Her head tilted too far. She didn't move like a child. She moved like something pretending to be one. She didn't speak, just stared. I left the house that day, drove to the edge of town, sat in the car for hours. When I returned, my partner was in the nursery. We didn't have children. The room had furnished itself. Crib, rocking chair, mobile spinning slowly. My partner sat in the corner, humming a tune I didn't recognize. I tried to pull them out. They didn't move. That night, I slept in the car. The mirror in the hallway cracked. I hadn't touched it. No one had. Behind the crack, I saw her again. The girl. She was closer now. Her mouth moved, but no sound came. Her eyes bled. I covered the mirror with a sheet. The next morning, the sheet was gone. The mirror was whole again. My partner was missing. I searched the house. Every room, every closet, the attic, the basement. The child-sized door was open. Inside was a crawl space, damp, dark, lined with drawings, all of her, hundreds of them, some torn, some burned. In the center was a doll, porcelain, cracked, smiling. I heard breathing behind me. I ran. I found my partner in the nursery. They were humming. The crib was full. I didn't look. I dragged them out. They screamed, fought, clawed, but I didn't stop. We left everything behind. The house, the furniture, the photos, the keys. We drove until the woods disappeared, until the air felt clean. We never spoke of it again. We moved into a small apartment in the city. No mirrors, no stairs, no nursery. My partner doesn't draw anymore. And sometimes I wake to the sound of footsteps. Sometimes I hear humming. Sometimes I dream of a girl in white. The farmer had walked his land every morning for over 30 years. His boots knew the soil, his eyes knew the rows, and his hands knew the rhythm of the seasons. The cornfield stretched wide and golden, bordered by woods that whispered in the wind. It was quiet land, honest land. On the first morning of harvest, something was wrong. There was a break in the rows, a clearing, and in the center of it, where there should have been corn, stood a house. It was small, 2 stories, grey and sagging. The porch leaned. The windows were black. ivy curled around the siding like veins. It hadn't been there yesterday. It hadn't been there ever. The farmer stood at the edge of the clearing, heart thudding. The air was colder here. The corn around the house was dead, blackened, brittle, whispering nothing. He stepped forward. The porch groaned beneath his boots. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust and something sour. Furniture lay covered in white sheets, yellowed with age. A rocking chair moved gently in the corner, though there was no breeze. He walked through the rooms. The wallpaper peeled in long strips. The floorboards creaked like old bones. In the nursery upstairs, faded pink wallpaper clung to the walls. A crib stood in the center, empty. Above it, a mobile spun slowly. On the wall, written in rust-colored streaks, was a rhyme. 3 black crows on the windowsill. 1 stayed quiet, 1 sat still. The 3rd flew off with a child's name. Now nothing here is quite the same. Turn the handle, count to 4, step inside and close the door. If you hear the lullaby, don't look up and don't ask why. 1 for the silence, 1 for the scream. 1 for the thing that haunts your dream. It waits beneath the crooked floor. Knock too loud, it wants 1 more. He left quickly. Back at the farmhouse, he called the county office. No record of a structure on his land. No permits, no history. He asked about old homesteads. Nothing. He asked his neighbors. No one had seen it. No one believed him. He returned the next day. The house was still there. The corn around the house continued to die. The soil grew cold. Animals avoided the area. Birds stopped singing. At night, he heard whispers and soft whimpering and crying. He stopped sleeping. He dreamed of shadows moving through the corn, shapes that didn't belong. He woke with dirt under his nails and scratches across his face and arms. He returned to the house just after dawn, carrying a crowbar and a lantern. The basement door, previously sealed shut, now hung slightly ajar, as if it had been waiting. The stairs creaked underfoot as he descended. The air grew colder with each step, thick with the scent of mildew and something older, something metallic. The lantern's glow barely touched the walls, which were lined with warped shelves and rotting beams. In the far corner, a rocking chair moved gently, though the air was still. Beside it sat a pile of children's toys, wooden blocks, a stuffed rabbit missing an ear, a jack in the box with his lid snapped open. None of it looked recent. None of it looked right. The floor beneath him felt soft, almost pulsing. He knelt and pressed his hand to the boards. They were warm. Then came the sound, low, rhythmic, like breathing, not his own. The lantern flickered. The rocking chair stopped. Something was in the house. It didn't speak. It didn't move. But it watched. He felt it in the walls, in the floorboards, in the silence. He ran. The next morning, the house was gone. The clearing was still there. The corn was dead. The soil was black. But the house had vanished. He checked the photos on his camera. They were all blank. He avoided the field for days. He fenced off the area, planted nothing there, told no one. But every year in late September, the corn around the clearing begins to die. And every year, he hears the rhyme. 3 black crows on the windowsill. 1 stayed quiet, 1 sat still. The 3rd flew off with a child's name. Now nothing here is quite the same. Turn the handle, count to 4, step inside and close the door. If you hear the lullaby, don't look up and don't ask why. 1 for the silence, 1 for the scream. 1 for the thing that haunts your dream. It waits beneath the crooked floor. Knock too loud, it wants 1 more.